Welcome back to Stoic Albums, the place where we decode silent strength, hidden psychology, and the rare mindset that only a few people ever master. Today's topic is powerful. Once a Sigma gets it, men lose their power. What does that mean? Why does Sigma's realization shake the entire male hierarchy? Let's break it down. Point number 1. The moment a Sigma gets it, the awakening that changes everything. There is a very unique moment in a Sigma's life, a moment that doesn't happen suddenly but grows slowly, quietly, and powerfully. This moment is the moment of understanding, the moment of awakening, the moment when a Sigma finally gets it. And once this realization sets in, everything around them begins to change. Not because the world becomes different, but because the Sigma finally sees reality with complete clarity. A Sigma is not someone who tries to fit into society's system. He observes, he thinks, and he questions. Even from childhood, Sigmas feel different. Not better, not worse, just different. They do not enjoy competition, yet they often outperform others. They do not like attention, yet they attract it naturally. They do not desire control, yet they end up being the one people quietly respect. But for a long time, the Sigma may not fully realize the kind of power he holds. He simply lives his life trying to stay away from drama, noise, ego battles, and fake authority. He minds his business. He stays in his own world. However, life always brings situations where people try to control you. Friends try to influence your decisions. Family tries to shape your identity. Society tries to push you into roles you did not choose. The world tries to tell you what you should be, how you should act, and what you should want. Everyone feels this pressure, but Sigmas feel it more intensely because they think more deeply and analyze more silently. And there comes a day, a very important day, when the Sigma pauses and asks himself, why am I allowing anyone to have power over me? That single question starts the transformation. Because the truth is simple. People only have power over you when you want something from them. Approval, attention, validation, acceptance. These are the chains that society uses to control most people. But when a Sigma finally realizes that he does not need any of these things, the chains fall off instantly. It's not anger. It's not rebellion. It's clear. This clarity is the Sigma awakening. The Sigma's realization. No one owns his mind. Sigmas make this internal shift quietly. They don't announce it. They don't tell anyone. They don't show off. They just change. Their energy changes. Their thinking changes. Their reactions change. The Sigma realizes he doesn't owe anyone an explanation. He doesn't have to fit into any category. He doesn't need to compete to prove himself. He doesn't need validation to feel valuable. He doesn't need anyone to agree with him. When this understanding settles inside him, he becomes mentally free. The world keeps trying to push him into boxes, but he simply stops stepping into them. He becomes a man who cannot be influenced through guilt, pressure, opinion, or expectation. And this is where everything changes because most people rely on these tools to control others. Once a Sigma understands the real power of independence, the entire social hierarchy becomes meaningless to him. Why this realization shakes other men. In every social structure, men use hierarchy to measure power. Alphas use dominance. Betas use loyalty and approval. Gammas and others use manipulation or social games. But the Sigma operates outside all of this. He is the only man in the room who can simply walk away from any dynamic without fear. Think about that for a moment. Most men stay in groups because they fear being alone. Most men follow leaders because they fear rejection. Most men stay quiet because they fear criticism. Most men pretend because they fear judgment. But the Sigma does not fear any of these things. He is built differently. And when a Sigma finally understands this truth, that no external system can define him, he becomes uncontrollable. This is exactly when other men begin to lose their power over him. They cannot use fear because he doesn't fear isolation. They cannot use pressure because he doesn't care about fitting in. They cannot use judgment because he already accepts himself. They cannot use comparison because he lives by his own standards. They cannot use competition because he competes with no one. This makes the Sigma a kind of threat. not because he tries to overpower others, but because they cannot overpower him. This is why insecure men get uncomfortable around a Sigma who has awakened. They sense something different in him, a quiet confidence that is not created by ego but by clarity. The Sigma's power is internal, not external. Every man who depends on external power, status symbols, approval, group identity, or validation, will ultimately lose power when faced with someone who does not play the same game. Sigmas do not fight for dominance. They do not try to prove anything. Their power comes from something deeper: self-awareness, self-control, emotional discipline, strong boundaries, independent thinking. This is why the Sigma's power appears almost invisible. It doesn't come from loud behavior or aggressive actions. It comes from knowing who he is and never compromising with that identity. Once a Sigma understands this internal power, he becomes untouchable. People may doubt him, underestimate him, or misunderstand him, but it does not matter, because he knows exactly what he is doing and why he is doing it. This kind of man cannot be manipulated. He cannot be tricked. He cannot be rushed. He cannot be controlled. He cannot be intimidated. And therefore, men who depend on influence, manipulation, or ego games suddenly find themselves powerless. The Sigma's silence speaks louder than words. One of the most interesting changes that happens after the Sigma awakening is that he becomes even more silent, but in a powerful way. Before awakening, he stayed silent because he didn't like unnecessary talking. After awakening, he stays silent because talking is simply unnecessary. His silence becomes a boundary, a shield, a statement, and sometimes even a challenge. People begin to study him. People begin to wonder what he is thinking. People begin to feel his presence more strongly. And those who once felt superior now feel insecure. Why? Because when a Sigma stops reacting, others lose control. This is the moment men lose their power, when they realize they cannot influence the Sigma with their usual tactics. It is like trying to move a mountain with your hands. Impossible. The world looks different after the awakening. After the Sigma gets it, his clarity changes the way he walks through life. He no longer wastes time on meaningless relationships. He no longer entertains drama or manipulation. He no longer explains himself to anyone. He no longer allows people to drain his energy. He no longer gives others the power to define his value. Instead, he focuses on his path, quietly, seriously, and confidently. He becomes a man who builds, a man who transforms, a man who grows stronger with every season, a man who chooses solitude because it sharpens him, a man who chooses peace because it fuels him, and most importantly, a man who chooses himself. This is the moment of true power, because once a Sigma understands who he is, no one else can tell him who he should be. Point number 2. Why men lose power when a Sigma becomes self-aware. When a Sigma becomes fully self-aware, the shift is not just internal, it affects everyone around him. People who once felt dominant, influential, or superior suddenly lose their grip. And this is not because the Sigma becomes aggressive or tries to overthrow anyone. The truth is simpler. Backhand index pointing right, people lose power over you the moment you no longer need anything from them. This one realization flips the entire social dynamic. Let's break down exactly why this happens, and why Sigma's awakening becomes a turning point that affects all men around him. 1. Men lose power because the Sigma stops playing their game. Most social structures are based on hierarchy. Everyone wants a position, a rank, a title. Someone wants to be the leader, someone wants to be respected, someone wants to be the one who makes decisions. But Sigma is the only man who refuses to participate in this system. Before his awakening, he may have been quiet but still involved, still interacting, still trying to understand how things work. But after he gets it, he steps out of the structure completely. When someone refuses to compete, the competitors lose their sense of purpose. When someone refuses to seek validation, validators lose their influence. When someone refuses to follow the rules, rule makers lose their control. This is why men lose power, they simply have no hold on the Sigma anymore. 2. The Sigma's independence removes all weaknesses. People use your needs against you. It's human nature. If you need acceptance, they give it slowly. If you need attention, they take it away. If you need praise, they make you perform for it. If you need company, they use loneliness as a weapon. This is how many men hold power over others, through psychological needs. But a Sigma is different. His independence is not a choice. It's part of his identity. He has a natural ability to enjoy solitude. He has a natural ability to work alone. He has a natural ability to think without influence. He has a natural ability to detach when needed. So when the Sigma becomes self-aware, these abilities rise to their full strength. Now, you cannot make him feel lonely. You cannot make him fear rejection. You cannot make him chase approval. You cannot punish him with silence. You cannot scare him with isolation. The Sigma's greatest strength is that he needs no audience and no applause. And a man who cannot be weakened is a man who cannot be controlled. 3. Men lose power because the Sigma sees through manipulation instantly. The Sigma mind is extremely observant. He watches people more than he speaks. He notices patterns others ignore. He pays attention to tone, timing, energy, hidden intentions, and micro-behaviors. When the Sigma becomes aware of this skill, he becomes almost impossible to lie to. He can spot manipulation before the manipulator even finishes speaking. He can sense guilt tripping the moment it starts. He can feel attention-seeking from miles away. He can recognize fake kindness instantly. And when someone tries these tactics on him, he does not react emotionally. He simply disconnects mentally. His expression remains calm, but his internal decision is clear. This person has no place in my inner world. The moment the Sigma sees through someone, that person loses their power forever. 4. The Sigma's emotional discipline removes control from others. Men often try to assert power emotionally. They want reactions. They want pushback. They want proof that you care about their opinion. They want to feel important. But a Sigma does not give emotional reactions easily. He is calm under pressure. He is silent during conflict. He is rational during arguments. He is controlled during chaos. People cannot get a rise out of him. They cannot make him lose his temper. They cannot make him over-explain himself. They cannot make him beg, chase, or panic. This emotional discipline is one of the strongest forces of the Sigma personality. When you cannot provoke someone, you cannot control them. And this is why men lose power. The Sigma refuses to play emotionally. 5. A self-aware Sigma knows his worth without comparison. Most men measure themselves through competition. Who earns more? Who attracts more attention? Who has higher status? Who is physically stronger? Who is more respected? Who gains more approval? But the Sigma measures himself against one person only, his past self. He is not trying to be better than others. He is trying to be better than who he was yesterday. This makes him unstoppable. When a man stops seeking external validation, all external hierarchies lose their value. Others cannot intimidate him with their achievements. They cannot make him feel inferior or superior. They cannot force him into competition. When comparison dies, control dies. This is the Sigma's quiet power. 6. Men lose power because the Sigma practices detachment. Detachment is not coldness. It is strength. Detachment means you don't cling. You don't obsess. You don't fear losing people. You don't depend on external emotions. You don't attach your identity to someone else's opinion. Detachment is the Sigma's natural state. But once he becomes fully aware of it, he begins to use it consciously. He chooses what affects him. He chooses what deserves his energy. He chooses what to focus on. He chooses what to ignore. People lose power when you control your focus. Because the truth is, attention is the greatest currency in human relationships. And when the Sigma stops giving attention to toxic people, they fade instantly. 7. The Sigma's confidence is internal, not performed. Most men perform with confidence. Sigmas embody it. Confidence becomes dangerous when it is quiet. Because quiet confidence is not for show. It is for life. It cannot be shaken by criticism, insults, or competition. A Sigma does not brag. He does not show off. He does not interrupt to prove a point. He does not need to dominate to feel strong. His confidence is not loud, it is unshakable. Others lose power because the Sigma is no longer movable. Not by compliments, not by threats, not by pressure, not by ego games. A man who cannot be moved cannot be controlled. 8. The Sigma's boundaries become steel walls. When a Sigma becomes self-aware, he starts setting boundaries without guilt. He starts saying no without fear. He starts walking away without hesitation. Suddenly people realize they cannot waste his time. They cannot drain his energy. They cannot interrupt his peace. They cannot break his focus. They cannot force him into situations he doesn't want. This is when they lose power, when the Sigma finally draws the line. People only take advantage of those who allow it. And once the Sigma stops allowing it, the game ends. Conclusion of point 2. Men lose power over a Sigma when he becomes self-aware because he no longer plays their hierarchical games. He becomes emotionally untouchable. He stops needing anything from them. He sees through manipulation. He thinks independently. He sets powerful boundaries. He refuses to be controlled. A Sigma's awakening is not loud, not dramatic, and not violent. It is quiet. It is calm. It is internal. But it changes everything. Point number 3. How the Sigma's detachment turns him into the most powerful man in the room. There is something deeply mysterious about a Sigma man. He doesn't speak much. He doesn't demand attention. He doesn't chase status. And yet, people feel his presence the moment he walks into a room. This presence doesn't come from muscles, fashion, or bragging. It comes from something far more rare. Backhand index pointing right detachment. Detachment is Sigma's secret weapon. The reason he becomes untouchable, unstoppable, and unshakable. But the moment a Sigma becomes aware of this gift, the balance of power around him shifts dramatically. Men who once felt dominant now feel insecure. People who once felt confident around him suddenly feel small. Because detachment is not weakness, it is the highest form of inner strength. Let's break down exactly why detachment gives the Sigma so much power, and why others lose control the moment he masters it. 1. Detachment gives the Sigma total emotional control. Most people make decisions emotionally. They react emotionally. They argue emotionally. They get offended emotionally. They fear emotionally. But not the Sigma. A Sigma can feel emotions deeply, but he rarely reacts emotionally. His emotional discipline is razor sharp. He thinks before responding. He observes before speaking. He analyzes before moving. This gives him a level of control that other men envy but rarely achieve. When someone argues, he stays calm. When someone insults him, he stays unfazed. When someone tries to provoke him, he remains silent. When someone pressures him, he stands firm. This lack of emotional reaction makes others lose power instantly. People control you through your reactions. If you do not react, they have nothing to use. A Sigma understands this naturally, and once he consciously embraces it, he becomes psychologically unbeatable. 2. Detachment makes the Sigma immune to manipulation. Manipulation always depends on emotional hooks. Fear, guilt, anger, jealousy, validation seeking, approval addiction. But the Sigma is detached from these triggers. He does not depend on others for emotional stability. He does not seek approval. He does not fear isolation. He does not care about impressing anyone. So when someone tries to manipulate him, he sees it immediately and simply disconnects. It's like trying to tie a rope around smoke. There is nothing to grab onto. Manipulators hate people they cannot control, and the Sigma becomes their worst nightmare. The moment a Sigma stops caring about someone's opinion is the moment that person loses all leverage. 3. Detachment makes the Sigma the calmest man in every crisis. When chaos hits, most people panic. They make mistakes. They overreact. They turn small problems into giant disasters. But the Sigma becomes even calmer. His detachment gives him clarity. He looks at the situation without fear. He thinks logically. He calculates outcomes. He chooses the best solution. This calmness under pressure makes him the most stable presence in the room. People naturally follow the person who stays calm when everyone else is losing control. And ironically, this silent leadership threatens men who depend on authority, dominance, or fear to maintain their positions. A calm Sigma becomes the real leader without even trying, and that is when the old leaders lose power. 4. Detachment gives the Sigma complete freedom from judgment. Most men fear judgment. They hide their weaknesses. They hide their mistakes. They pretend to be more than they are. They constantly seek approval. But the Sigma doesn't live for an audience. He does not change who he is to impress anyone. He does not hide his true nature to fit in. He does not shrink himself to avoid criticism. He does not adjust his personality for acceptance. He simply lives as he wants to live. When someone judges him, he doesn't argue. When someone mocks him, he doesn't defend himself. When someone rejects him, he moves on. This freedom from judgment makes him extremely powerful, because people cannot manipulate someone who does not need public approval. The moment the Sigma stops caring what others think, others lose the ability to control him completely. 5. Detachment makes the Sigma impossible to predict. Predictability gives people control. If they know what you want, what you fear, what triggers you, what you react to, what you chase, what you avoid, then they can use it against you. But the Sigma is unpredictable because he is detached. He does not seek the same things others seek. He does not react the way people expect. He does not follow the social script. Sometimes he stays silent when others speak. Sometimes he walks away when others stay. Sometimes he refuses opportunities most people would crave. Sometimes he chooses solitude over social gatherings. This unpredictability confuses other men. They cannot map him. They cannot anticipate him. They cannot influence him. The Sigma becomes a mystery, and mysteries always hold power. 6. Detachment gives the Sigma unbreakable boundaries. People respect boundaries only when you enforce them. Most men fail because they say no softly but yes easily. But a Sigma is different. His detachment gives him the strength to walk away, ignore nonsense, shut down manipulation, say no confidently, cut toxic people off without guilt. He doesn't beg anyone to stay. He doesn't fear missing out. He doesn't apologize for protecting his peace. These boundaries make others nervous because boundaries mean control, and control means power. A man with strong boundaries cannot be pushed, pulled, or pressured. And once a Sigma sets these boundaries, people realize they no longer have access to him like before. That is when their influence begins to disappear. 7. Detachment gives the Sigma the ability to walk away from anything. This is perhaps the Sigma's greatest superpower. Backhand index pointing right, the ability to walk away from anyone, anything, anytime. Jobs, friendships, relationships, groups, situations, arguments, drama, expectations. He does not cling. He does not depend. He does not attach his identity to external things. If something threatens his peace, he leaves. If something slows his growth, he cuts it off. If something disrespects him, he disappears. If something feels fake, he distances himself. Walking away is the strongest position a human being can take, because walking away means, you cannot trap me. You cannot control me. You cannot own me. You cannot scare me. The moment a Sigma becomes aware that he can walk away from any situation, every man who tries to dominate him loses power instantly. 8. Detachment makes the Sigma focused and successful. Without emotional distractions, without toxic people, without validation seeking, Sigma becomes laser-focused on his goals. His detachment allows him to commit deeply, work silently, build steadily, improve consistently, grow independently. While others waste time on drama, comparison, and ego games, Sigma is busy improving himself. Success comes naturally to a man who isn't wasting energy on things that don't matter. And when the Sigma becomes successful on his own terms, that is when men around him realize they never had power over him in the first place. 9. Detachment makes the Sigma intimidating without trying. Powerful men don't need to prove anything. They simply exist, and that is enough. The Sigma's presence becomes intimidating because he sees everything. He reacts to nothing. He judges silently. He doesn't need anyone. He cannot be influenced. He cannot be controlled. People feel small around someone who cannot be shaken. People feel insecure around someone who cannot be manipulated. People feel powerless around someone who remains calm no matter what. This is why the Sigma's detachment becomes a quiet storm, a force that shifts the energy of every room he enters. Conclusion of point 3. A Sigma's detachment is not coldness. It is maturity. It is clear. It is emotional mastery. Once he becomes fully aware of this power, people, especially men, lose their influence over him because he controls his emotions. He cannot be manipulated. He stays calm during chaos. He does not seek approval. He cannot be predicted. He enforces strong boundaries. He can walk away from anything. He focuses on his own path. He becomes naturally intimidating. Detachment transforms the Sigma from a quiet outsider into a force people cannot control, cannot influence, and cannot understand. Point number 4. Why the Sigma's silence destroys the power games of men. Silence is one of the most misunderstood forms of power. Most people think silence means weakness, shyness, or lack of confidence. But when it comes to a Sigma male, silence is something completely different. It is a strategy. It is strength. It is self-control. And most importantly, it is dominance without aggression. When a Sigma finally understands the power of his silence, when he gets it, that is the moment other men begin to lose their influence over him. Not because he is trying to dominate them, but because silence disrupts every tool they use to control social dynamics. In this point, we will break down exactly how the Sigma silence becomes a force that changes the energy of any environment, weakens manipulative people, and makes all power games useless. 1. Silence gives the Sigma total control of the interaction. Most men talk too much. They overshare. They explain. They defend. They justify. They react instantly. But a Sigma is different. He chooses when to speak. He chooses what to reveal. He chooses which conversations deserve energy. This selective silence gives him control of the interaction without trying. Think about it. The person who talks less always has the power. Why? Because talking reveals your emotions, your fears, your desires, your weaknesses. Silence hides all of that. The Sigma's silence forces others to fill the gaps. They start talking more. They start revealing more. They start exposing their intentions. Meanwhile, the Sigma remains unmoved, watching, listening, and understanding everything. That calm, controlled silence makes others feel uncertain, and uncertainty destroys their confidence. 2. Silence makes the Sigma impossible to manipulate. Manipulation works only when you react. If someone can make you angry, they can control you. If someone can make you chase, they can control you. If someone can make you defend yourself, they can control you. If someone can make you feel guilty, they can control you. But the Sigma's silence shuts all of this down. He does not respond to guilt trips. He does not react to provocation. He does not rise to emotional bait. He does not engage in pointless debates. His silence is a wall. And when manipulators cannot get through that wall, they lose interest and lose power. This is why narcissists, bullies, and ego-driven men always feel uncomfortable around Sigmas. They cannot read him. They cannot move him. They cannot figure out what he wants. He becomes unpredictable, and unpredictability destroys manipulation. 3. Silence forces men to reveal their true intentions. Men who rely on dominance, ego, or status use words as weapons. They talk loudly, they brag, they lecture, they interrupt, they challenge others publicly. This works on insecure men, but not on Sigmas. When the Sigma responds with calm silence, something interesting happens. The other person keeps talking, trying harder and harder to prove something. This reveals everything: their ego, their insecurity, their need for approval, their obsession with dominance, their desire to impress, their fear of being ignored. Silence is a mirror, and people unconsciously expose themselves when they speak into it. The Sigma's silence shines a light on who they truly are. And once he sees their intentions clearly, they lose the ability to influence him. 4. Silence makes the sigma intimidating without aggression. Aggressive men try to dominate through volume. Sigmas dominate without saying a word. People fear what they cannot understand. And Sigma's silence makes him hard to read. You don't know if he is judging you, ignoring you, analyzing you, or simply doesn't care. This creates psychological pressure. Here's the truth. Backhand index pointing right loud men impress crowds. Backhand index pointing right silent men impress minds. The Sigma's silence creates a quiet tension that makes others step back, rethink their words, and adjust their behavior. Even confident men feel a subconscious pressure around someone who is completely calm, quiet, and unbothered. This is why other men lose power, because they cannot intimidate someone who intimidates them without trying. 5. Silence helps the Sigma observe everything others miss. While others are talking, the Sigma is watching. While others are arguing, Sigma is analyzing. While others are competing, the Sigma is understanding. His silence sharpens his awareness. It allows him to notice tone of voice, hidden emotions, power plays, body language, insecurities, lies, intentions, patterns, weaknesses. This knowledge becomes his quiet advantage. When you understand someone better than they understand themselves, you naturally gain the upper hand. The Sigma doesn't need to fight for dominance. He earns it through understanding. And when he becomes aware of this skill, it becomes impossible for anyone to manipulate him or outsmart him. 6. Silence blocks ego battles completely. Most male conflicts are ego-driven. Who is right? Who is stronger? Who gets the last word? Who is the leader? Who gets respect? Who wins the argument? But the Sigma walks away from all of this. His silence kills the ego battle before it even starts. When someone tries to argue with him and he simply stays calm and quiet, the other person has nothing to fight against. You cannot battle someone who refuses to join the fight. A man who does not feed his ego becomes impossible to defeat through ego games. This is why alphas and aggressive personalities lose power around a Sigma. Their tactics simply fail. 7. Silence protects the Sigma's energy. Talking costs energy. Explaining costs energy. Arguing costs energy. Defending yourself costs energy. The Sigma saves all this energy by avoiding unnecessary conversations. He does not speak to impress. He does not speak to compete. He does not speak to fit in. He speaks only when it matters. This makes his presence more powerful because his words are rare. His words are intentional. His words carry weight. When a quiet man finally speaks, everyone listens. The Sigma's silence elevates the value of his voice. And when people value your voice, they automatically respect you. This respectful silence weakens those who once tried to control him or talk over him. 8. Silence removes the influence of peer pressure. Peer pressure works only when you fear being different. But the Sigma doesn't fear standing alone. He doesn't fear going against the group. He doesn't need social approval. So when people push him to join the group, to follow trends, to change his principles, he simply stays silent. That silence is a powerful no. This makes other men uncomfortable because they rely on group behavior to enforce their rules. When the Sigma refuses silently, the group loses its influence. A man who says nothing is often stronger than 100 men who shout. 9. Silence turns the Sigma into a mystery people want to understand. People are naturally drawn to mystery. They want to decode it. They want to understand it. They want to figure it out. The Sigma's silence creates this mystery automatically. The less he speaks, the more people wonder. What is he thinking? What is his story? Why is he so calm? What does he know? Why is he different? This curiosity pulls people toward him. This mystery gives him influence without effort. This presence gives him power without aggression. And when men feel this silent influence, they realize they cannot compete with someone who isn't even trying. Conclusion of point 4. The Sigma's silence is not emptiness. It is strength. It is awareness. It is controlled. It is dominance through calmness. His silence makes him unpredictable, makes him mysterious, makes him impossible to manipulate, exposes others, protects his energy,
Stops ego battles.
gives him emotional control, commands respect without force. When the Sigma becomes fully aware of the power of his silence, he becomes the most influential person in any environment, because silence is a form of power that no one can steal, copy, or defeat. Point number 5. The Sigma's power becomes unstoppable. Once a Sigma finally reaches the final stage of inner mastery, something rare and powerful happens. His presence becomes impossible to ignore, not because he's trying to be noticed, but because his detachment, clarity, and independence become so strong that people feel it without him saying a single word. This is the stage where the Sigma transforms from simply understanding the game to completely transcending it. And when a Sigma reaches this level, that's when everyone else realizes they can no longer influence him, weaken him, or control him in any way. At this point, the Sigma isn't just mentally strong, he becomes emotionally invisible to drama. Nothing sticks to him anymore. People may try to provoke him, pull him into arguments, test his boundaries, or guilt trip him. But the Sigma doesn't respond with anger, fear, or frustration. Instead, he reacts with calm, cold clarity. He sees things for what they really are. And this calmness scares people more than any loud reaction ever could. Most men rely on emotional reactions to feel powerful. Some want to dominate others through intimidation. Some want to manipulate through guilt or approval. Some want to look superior by creating competition around them. But the Sigma has no interest in any of this. He doesn't join unnecessary conflicts. He doesn't prove his worth. He doesn't defend his ego. His silence becomes his shield, and his self-control becomes his weapon. As a result, those who depend on chaos to feel powerful lose every advantage once the Sigma stays calm. Another thing that makes Sigma unstoppable is his ability to detach from people, situations, and outcomes. This doesn't mean he doesn't care, it means he chooses what to care about. When the Sigma decides to walk away, he does it without fear. He doesn't stay in toxic relationships. He doesn't cling to people who bring negativity. He doesn't chase friendships or groups that drain his energy. Once he realizes something is wasting his time, he steps out, and he never looks back. This level of detachment is rare, and many people see it as a superpower. Imagine living life without constantly worrying about who approves of you, who likes you, or who talks about you behind your back. That's the Sigma. His value comes from within, not from attention or validation. When he walks into a room, he isn't seeking approval. He carries his own approval with him. And that alone shifts the balance of power wherever he goes. At the final stage of his evolution, the Sigma becomes deeply selective about who he allows into his life. He doesn't need a crowd. He doesn't need a big circle. He prefers quality over quantity. The few people he keeps around are loyal, honest, and genuine. And because he keeps his circle small, no one can influence him through social pressure. Social hierarchies that affect others don't apply to him. He stands outside of them, untouched and unaffected. This selective nature also makes the Sigma incredibly mysterious. People want to know what he thinks, what he feels, and what he plans, but he reveals only what he chooses. He never shares too much. He never overshares his emotions. He never exposes his weaknesses. Everything he does is controlled, thoughtful, and intentional. And the less he reveals, the more people are drawn to him. Another reason the Sigma becomes unstoppable is his ability to turn solitude into strength. While most men need social interaction to feel confident, the Sigma grows stronger in silence. His alone time is when he builds new skills, plans his path, reflects on his mistakes, and sharpens his mind. Instead of escaping solitude, he uses it as a tool for growth. This makes him more focused, more self-aware, and more capable than others. Over time, he becomes the kind of person who doesn't need the world, but the world needs him. Because of this inner development, the Sigma's power becomes self-sustaining. He no longer depends on motivation from others. He doesn't wait for opportunities, he creates them. He doesn't chase success, he attracts it through discipline and consistency. And he doesn't let failure break him, he sees it as a lesson. This resilience is what makes the Sigma nearly impossible to defeat. Even when life gets hard, he doesn't collapse. He adapts, recalibrates, and rises again. People notice this strength and can't help but respect it, even if they don't understand it. At this point, the Sigma becomes someone others watch closely. Even those who tried to compete with him earlier now look to him for guidance. They want to know how he stays calm under pressure, how he maintains his boundaries, and how he continues to improve without seeking attention. The same people who once underestimated him eventually start admiring him or fearing him. Why? Because a Sigma who has mastered himself becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability means others cannot control or anticipate his moves. Relationships change too. People approach the Sigma differently once they realize he can't be manipulated. Women see him as mysterious and emotionally stable. Men see him as confident and self-assured. Jealous people stay uncomfortable around him. Insecure people try to imitate him. Strong people try to befriend him. And toxic people stay away because they know they have no chance of playing games with him. But the Sigma doesn't use his power to dominate or control others. That's what makes him different. Instead, he uses his strength to create a peaceful life, to move with purpose, and to protect his mental freedom. His goal isn't to be above others. His goal is to be the best version of himself. And this mindset is what separates him from the rest. Ultimately, the Sigma becomes unstoppable because he learns the greatest truth of all. Backhand index pointing right power isn't something you take from others. It's something you build within yourself. And once the Sigma builds this inner power, no one can ever take it away. His silence becomes the loudest force in the room. His confidence becomes unshakable. His presence becomes magnetic. And his life becomes something only a few can understand, but everyone can feel. This is what happens when a Sigma reaches the final stage. He becomes a force that no one can weaken, influence, or control. If you felt this, hit that like button. If you want more Sigma mindset breakdowns, subscribe to Stoic Albums. And always remember, silence is strength, detachment is power, and self-mastery is everything.